Hi guys, welcome back to the bench. Firstly, sorry there was no upload. I've invested in a new camera to try and just give you better quality and all the rest of it, and I do not know how to make it work. So everything that I recorded on this new camera was corrupted and it wouldn't upload, and now's the only time I've had to sit back down and re-record it and try and get it up this afternoon. But what we were supposed to focus on was the Aquila, the lenses, and the purity seal. So what I'll do with those, I'll just grab some bits and pieces from my bits box and base them up and go through step by step on what we would have done in the previous video had it not been corrupted. So let's just rip straight into it. Alright guys, so I've got this primed, painted, ready to go. Just threw a bit of colour on it just so we can understand what we're trying to do here. So from this, what we'll do is we'll take a bit of dark brown. I just use dark rust from AK. You can use any dark brown. You can use Rhinox hide, anything. It doesn't really matter. It's not a big deal. But I like to take this brown and put it over the Aquila before I run my gold. That way you don't have to paint the whole thing gold, and it's still going to give some type of depth and shadow to the Aquila itself without having to go too far overboard. With the golds, I like to primarily choose to run Retributor armor. I know I've not been a massive fan of Citadel paints, but this is definitely one of the best golds that you can get. This is partially why I don't like Citadel paints, because they don't seal. It's just one of those things that just gives me the ick. So we'll get our wet palette ready. We'll take this and we'll start throwing some paint on top of it. With our trusty wet palette ready to go, we're going to take a bit of this dark brown. Just going to load up our wet palette. You don't need a lot. You only need a small amount. We'll take a bit of that brown, and we're just going to hit all the parts of the Aquila with the brown. And like I said, this is just going to give you a bit of depth and a bit of colour before we start to throw down our gold over the top. You can do this any way you want. You can literally, you don't have to do a brown. You can just literally throw, if you don't have brown, you've only got gold, it's not going to make that much of a difference. I just like to do it because it helps, like I said, just create a bit more depth with the Aquila. So we'll keep going along with this, and then once this is dry and painted on, I'll come back and we'll start laying some gold. Alright guys, so we've got the brown down. Now what we want to do, we just want to take our Retributor armor, we want to put this on our wet palette. We're not going to need a lot. Just take this onto your wet palette, and then we will we'll start to build from that brown up to the gold. So you'll just take your gold and you'll not hit all the parts. You'll literally just try and hit the tops. And the reason why, and I'll show you in a second, is something that we'll do after this that will just make it stand out heaps more. Alright, so now that we've got the Aquila done, you might have missed a bit of it, but you literally, like I said before, and I tried to explain it, but I think I stuffed it up, is you want to not get the whole Aquila. You want to try and leave some of that brown that you can see there, just some of that brown in the darker parts. And this is where this next little part that I'll add to it, it really helps and it really comes into play. What I want you to do, if you've got it, is take Reikland Fresh Shade. If you've got Seraphim Sepia, that's okay, or any sort of darker wash. Try not to use Agrax Earthshade or Nuln Oil, because it's going to dry down or flatten out that gold. You want to try and keep that shine. Alright, so we'll throw some of this on and we'll come back. Now with it straight out of the pot, you want to take your Reikland Fresh Shade and you want to just hit everything. Every single part. Try not to get it onto the actual red and the paintwork, but you'll be able to see once this is dry, it's added where the brown is. It's tinted the brown as if it's a gold. And that's what you want to try and do. You don't want to go too heavy with it, like I just did probably a bit too much heavy then. But even still, just wick away with your brush, push it around, and just make it fill all those, I guess, creases between the wings. Just push it around. And you can see how that has filled in where the brown was, but it's given a depth to where that brown was, and it's pushed out the gold. And Aquilas, guys, it's as easy as that. Like it's not something that's hard, that takes a lot of patience or rocket science. It's literally 3 colors. We did it with a brown, a basic gold, and a shade. It's that simple. Like, it is gonna make your minis stand out a hell of a lot better. Right, so now from here we will go into lenses. Lenses are so simple, so easy. I've taken this head, primed it, given it a bit of color, and we'll come back and we'll smash out these eyes. Let's go. Now, eyes are super easy. All we're going to do is run Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White for the base, and then we're going to hit the top with a bit of Scorpion Green contrast. I'm not a mad fan of contrast paints, we all know this, but for what we're trying to achieve with this is the best 2 combination you can do with your lenses. Depending on your faction, I know Blood Angels typically run green lenses, Salamanders run red. You can use your contrast paints for pretty much anything that is specific to lenses or OSL or any of that sort of stuff. So we'll load some of this onto our wet palette and we'll start to bang out the eyes. Onto your wet palette, just put a small amount. Like, it doesn't have to be a drastic amount, but you want to make sure that you don't overload your brush. You want your brush to have as much control as possible, especially when it comes to doing the lenses, because you don't want to have leak over the face of your miniature, especially the eyes, because these eyes are pretty much the focal point. So you want to try and have the best hold that you can on your mini, and just take your time. A nice sharp brush with a sharp point is all you need to get good eyes. It doesn't matter if it bleeds out too much or you're not too precise with it, because the cool thing about it is, with the glow effect that you're going to get from your contrast paint, it'll help just add a little bit more of that detail, and with practice you'll get better at it. So just follow the shape of the eye, or the lens I should say. It's as simple as that. So we'll finish this one, we'll finish the other, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to apply the contrast. Alright, and this is where your eyes should be. If you bled a little bit onto, like, I don't know, I guess you'd call it the cheeks of his helmet, it's not a big deal, because once you hit it with that contrast, it'll give it that little bit of an underglow effect, which is pretty good. But you want to be as precise as you can with these. Nobody's perfect at doing eyes. It all takes time and practice. But this is why I do like to do my miniatures with the helmet separate. It just makes it a whole lot easier to be able to control. You're not trying to fumble with a big bulky mini. You're able just to rest this however you can, even if it's flat like that. You're able to rest it and get more support with your painting hand and this, instead of trying to fiddle and fumble with the miniature itself. So this is where the eyes should be. We'll bang out some contrast paint, and it's so simple, and it's so quick. It's actually really easy to do. So let's get to it. With your wet palette in hand, shake the living shit out of your contrast paint. Sometimes the vortex mixers are really good for these, but I find if you just shake it, that's all you really need to do. Now, all I like to do, especially with contrast paints, is I'll take a bit out of the pot and I will put it on my wet palette, just so I'm able to push it around and be able to control and manipulate how much I've actually got in the body of the brush. I'll take my little helmet, my little guy with his little helmet, and it's as simple as just loading up your brush and pushing that contrast paint into his eye. And the more you load into your brush, especially around the darker parts of the red, you're going to have what's casted a shadow of the lens, which is good, which is what I prefer to do. So you'll literally just load your brush and just whack it in the eyes. You don't have to be super precise. You can just literally dot away, and that's it. For something as simple as that, it gives your miniature so much more character. It's going to bring your miniature to life, and that's what we want to do. That's what we want to achieve. It's just that little bit more lifelike look. So that's lenses. That's how easy lenses are, guys. It's as simple as that. White, contrast, done. So now that he's all finished, we will grab a purity seal, and we'll do a purity seal, and we'll go from there. And with your purity seal ready to go, there's only really two things I like to do with purity seals. I like to use Olive Flesh by Pro Acryl. It already has that parchmenty look, which is kind of what you want to go for. And then from that, you'll literally just take Agrax Earthshade, wash the whole thing, and then take a dark black, dark brown, dark grey, it doesn't really matter, and just really, really water it out if you want to do script on your parchment. So we'll load some of this up onto the wet palette. We'll take our purity seal, which is ready to go, and we'll start to paint this, and I'll show you how to do it. So now, with the Olive Flesh loaded up on your wet palette, you want to try and make this thin. You're not going to be able to hit this all in one coat, otherwise it's just going to look fat and blocky, and that's what you don't want. So you want to try to make sure that you've watered down your olive as best as you can, especially going over a black base coat. It's not going to spread as evenly and one coat as you'd want, so you're definitely going to have to lay two, and that's okay, maybe even three, just to get that clear, clean look. Otherwise you're going to run into problems. So just take your time, pick all the spots that you need, make sure your paint is even, like I said, otherwise it's going to leave that big fat chalky look, which nobody likes when it comes to painting. So fill it all around, and it's simple as that. When you've got to this point, just let it sit, let it dry. Because if you keep trying to add more paint to it while it's wet, you're just going to be building it up and pushing it around, which isn't going to help you. It's going to end up looking crap in the end. Now that it's dry, come back, give it another hit again. Like I said, it might take 2 or 3 coats. 2 or 3 coats is completely normal. You just find that part again, and you can see how where it was dark, it's now starting to fill and cover, give you full coverage over your previous bits. That's what you want. You don't want to be pushing previous paint around, which is what will happen if you keep trying to add while it's wet. So this will probably need, I reckon, 1 more, and then we'll be good. So I think it's definitely going to need 1 more coat. So again, we'll do the same as the last 2 steps. Load up your brush, make sure it's thinned, make sure it's good, and then just come back through over it again, and you'll see now it's definitely filled all those previous black spots. Don't stress too heavily on it, because once you put the Agrax Earthshade wash on it, it will give depth, so don't stress heavily. It'll be okay. Just like that. It's that simple. Now when it comes to the wax, for me, I like to run red purity seals. For some reason, I don't know why, I just feel like red purity seals are the way to go. They're all different across every chapter. Some people do yellow, some people do blue, some people do black. It's completely up to you. Some people do green, it's all good. I like the red, purely and simply because that's just how I see the wax to be, is red. So for me, I'd like to always start with a Galvor back red. It's a really purpley, dark red. For some reason, I just find works well when I use this as a base, and then I'll hit it with corn red over the top. So while we wait for this to dry, we'll pick out the wax seal, and we'll keep adding to it. The wax seals are stupidly easy. You're literally just filling it in. Try not to get it on the parchment paper. You can see where the two separate. Just follow that line and be precise. Take your time, you're in no rush. Just pick out all the edges. Make sure you get on the insides of it. And that's it. It's that easy. Just follow the circle. Follow the circle. Paint by numbers. So now that they're both dry, what we're going to do, we're going to take a bit of Agrax Earthshade, and we're literally just going to smash absolutely everything with it. Try not to just let it pull. You don't want it to pull, otherwise it's just going to look unrealistic, as unrealistic can be. Just push it around. That's it. So you want to try and make sure that you get it along the edges where the two parchments meet, and try to keep it off all the high spots. You don't want it too heavy, you don't want it too light, but where it is now is perfect. It was literally just a small brush load, and that's it. So we'll again let this dry and we'll come straight back. Now with your script work or your writing on the seal itself, I like to go with Pro Acryl Charcoal Black. It's not a huge, deep dark black, but it's black enough that, and grey enough in a sense that it looks like script. You can run any other black, any other grey you want, but I just find that this Pro Acryl black makes it look actual texty. So you're just going to shake that up, load up your wet palette. Not heaps, you really do not, you don't need a lot. And you're literally just going to you got to make sure this as well too is pretty watery. Otherwise it's going to pull heaps on the tip and it's not going to flow like you want it to flow. So just like that is probably perfect enough. You want to make sure you've got a really sharp tip on your brush, and then just go right to left, left to right, it doesn't really matter, but try and keep it in a horizontal line across the text, to give you your text across the parchment. That's what you want. So like I said, make sure you've loaded your brush up and you've got a really sharp tip on that brush. You're trying to literally only just paint with the tip, nothing more. And you're just dragging it across, trying not to leave big bulky fat lines, otherwise it'll just look out of place and silly. Try and fill in the back if you can, don't stress too much about it, but it's literally as simple as that. That's all we're doing. From afar you won't know, but it's just gonna, now with that done, we're just going to take a bit of a red, doesn't really matter what red. We're just going to hit all the top parts of the wax just to give it a bit more of a pop. Don't do all of it, otherwise it is just going to look really out of place. Try and get the center as well, just so you can create that outer shadow or the inner shadow. That's literally it. That's it. That's your purity seal done. Alright guys, so that's it. I will show you the final result on the mini that we started on. And then from there we'll base him and he's finished. Alright guys, and this is where your mini will be sitting at the moment. We've smashed out 95% of him. There's a few little details left to go before we base him and we throw him on. But in today we got the lenses, the purity seal and the Aquilas done. Next we'll go into basing, battle damage and edge highlights. Super easy, super effective, but he is there. He is almost ready for that tabletop. As always guys, be fearless, paint fearlessly, and I will see you in the next one.